Hello y'all, and welcome to YoungFolk Knits. Today I've got a project journal for you, and it's all about the Felix Pullover. So stick around and knit it up with me. Hello y'all, and welcome back to YoungFolk Knits. If you're new here, my name is Casey, and this is a channel where I share all about my love of fiber arts. So there's lots of knitting, sewing, spinning, and who knows what else we might get up to around here. I also occasionally share about living on a small farm here in Arkansas, where my husband, myself, and our children are beekeepers. We love raising gardens and animals, chickens, goats, whatever we're into at the moment, who knows what all, and just spending time here in the foothills of the Ozarks. So if any of that sounds like it might be your cup of tea, make sure and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on any future video content. Today, however, is all about a project that I want to start working on, and it is the Felix Pullover. So recently, Knitting Fever very kindly sent me some yarn and some needles for a project. They sent me Noro Madara, which is a worsted Aran weight base. It's a singles, but it is 60% wool, 30% silk, and 10% alpaca. It's got really lovely tweedy bits in it, and it's just a fun single ply yarn. It comes in some really great saturated colors. I have knit 2 sweaters out of this base, and I'm a huge fan, I have to say. Especially if you knit this up at a really loose and open gauge. I like that a lot. The yarn puffs up quite a bit. You get a lot of drape with it, and that's my preferred fabric. I really like some drape and a little bit more of an open weave. So I like this a lot. This is color 23, and it's a purple base with lots of really fun orangey reds and blues and just really great tweedy bits. So there were a couple of sweaters I was trying to decide between. I knew I wanted to do more of a cropped pullover that I could wear with dresses, and also I could wear with high-waisted pants, definitely with dresses. So I actually put a poll up on my Instagram stories to get y'all to help me to decide. It was between the Felix Pullover and the Doppio sweater, and they were both sweaters that are knit at a really high gauge. I think you use like a US 10 for the body. So the winner on the poll was actually the Doppio sweater, but I was talking to some people in my spinning group, Emily from Gently Chaotic Knits and Marlene from Marlene Knits. And I'm not sure who else is going to knit that with her. Maybe Maya from What Maya Made. But they're going to do a Doppio sweater in September. And Emily got some yarn from Sorella that is the Gilmore Girls yarn. And she loves to watch Gilmore Girls every fall, which I do love that show. But I don't know if I can rewatch it, the whole thing again. I was so upset by the ending of the original series, and then I was really upset by the ending of the second little Gilmore Girls sequel that they did. I can't believe they left it hanging. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. I do love Gilmore Girls, though. I love all the characters and everything. But I'm going to knit a Doppio sweater in September with them, and I think I'm going to use my Noro Madara in the blue color for that one. I'm not sure yet. That's a possibility though. So I decided to go ahead and cast on the Felix Pullover now with this yarn. It's a really large gauge, so I think it's going to knit up really quickly. I like the fact that it has some really simple but pretty raglan shaping with the lace. and that's how you increase. I've had this pattern for years and years. I bought it years ago, and I only had one skein of an Aran weight yarn in my stash at that time, which I had bought at a local yarn store. It's not really local, it's a few hours away, but I had bought one skein of it. It was YoungFolk yarn, and it was really expensive. I had never bought yarn that expensive, so I only bought one skein, and I wanted to see if I liked it enough to go ahead and buy the full sweater quantity of it. So I actually knit that entire first ball of a Felix Pullover, and I did like it, but I decided not to buy a sweater's quantity of it, so I ripped it back out. I still have that caked up YoungFolk yarn, one skein of it. Maybe I should make a hat. Anyway, I have made the cardigan, but I think I need to use my pattern that I bought all those years ago. So I'm going to cast on today. I need to wind up my yarn. I've got like 4 skeins of it. I need to wind up my yarn. I need to cast on and go ahead and get started. I'm excited. So y'all stick around and let's see how long it takes me to knit this sweater along with all my test knits and other projects. Hello friends, alright, I'm back. So I wound my first cake of yarn up and I went ahead and cast on. So this calls for US 8 needles for the ribbing and US 10 needles for the body. I could not find a 16-inch circular US 8 anywhere. So I used my US 7s, and that actually worked out well because I did a tubular cast on. And I always like to go down a size for the first couple rows of a tubular cast on anyway. And I ended up just going ahead and doing the ribbing in the US 7. I actually think that was a good call. I'm such a loose knitter. Did I gauge swatch? No, I did not. But I'm considering this my gauge swatch because it's such a large gauge. It just knits up so quickly. I decided to go for the size 4. So with this pattern, you cast on, every size casts on the same amount of stitches for your collar and for your ribbing and for your short rows. So everybody works through the short rows exactly the same, and I did that. And I'm done with the short rows. So now it's time to start the raglan increases, the raglan shaping, and it's worked the same for everybody except that the number of times you do those increases for each size. So your yoke depth or raglan depth is just increasing with each size. And I think I'm going to do the size 4, but what's very easy is to try it on at that point and then make a decision. Do I just want it longer? If I just want it longer, I could just knit a little bit more before I split for sleeves. If I need it bigger and longer, I can do another repeat of the raglan increases. So that's my plan. Hopefully this won't take me too long, but I will keep you updated on my progress. I love this. I love how it's working up. I think it's going to be really fun. I like the color. I like the feel of it, and I like the tweedy bits. It's got that super fun handmade look, and I like it. Hello everyone, I have a quick little check-in. I have been working on my Felix Pullover and I'm very close to it splitting for sleeves. I only have a few rows left and I'm loving the fabric. It's so light and airy and just lovely. I think this is going to be so much fun, and I'm loving all the tweedy bits that are starting to shine in this. So I thought it would be really fun to actually sew a little something to go with this, and I'm not necessarily sewing this as a specific outfit that I will only wear this together, but I had gotten some Merchant and Mills linen in this really fun stripe. It's a low contrast stripe color, and I think that this color would be so fun for this summer. But if you hold them next to each other, you can see that it really brings out the orangey red tweedy bits. And I think it would be so much fun together. I have decided to sew a Hinterland dress out of this linen. And I think what I'm gonna do is the cap sleeve, short sleeve version. And I want to do a button placket only on the bodice, not all the way down. So that's my plan. I need to go ahead and cut out my pattern. I've made 4 Hinterland dresses and they're all totally different from each other, and this will be a completely different version. But I want to do the waist ties and just have a nice simple dress that I can wear with a cardigan or with a sweater or completely by itself all summer long. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna keep knitting away on this. I'm going to split for sleeves and we'll see what happens. Also, I did get to the point where it no longer fit on my 16-inch circulars. So I got my Luca needle set out that Knitting Fever very kindly gifted me. This is the Cypra ones, the copper needles. First of all, they're absolutely gorgeous. And second of all, I love a metal needle. Metal needles are my favorite. So it's going really well. I like the length of these needles. They're nice and long tips, which make all the difference for me in my hands. And it's just knitting right up. That big gauge just makes for a super speedy knit. I'm gonna get back to business, get to sewing, and to keep working away on this little outfit. I just don't want it to be too long, and I know that it's gonna grow. So I think I'm gonna stop right here and go ahead and start my ribbing. It is Monday, August the 19th, and we have a finished Felix Pullover. I'm so excited. I got my notebook out, and I wanted to update my notes and chat a little bit about how everything went with the knitting process and what I think about my finished pullover. First of all, I did make the size 4. And here's what I've got so far, so I need to add a few notes. I feel like I actually could have made the size 3 based off of the yoke depth or the raglan depth. My armpit is actually up here. It could have been a different fit if I would have chose a size with less positive ease. A little bit about my gauge. Pre-blocking, I had a gauge of 16 stitches per 4 inches, and post-blocking, I was right on gauge with 14 stitches per 4 inches. And I could have blocked it to get a little bit of a different gauge either way. And instead, I just went exactly with the gauge that it was called for. I could have stretched it out and got a larger gauge, like 13 or 12 stitches per inch if I would have really pulled it sideways instead of up and down. Or I could have pulled it down and it would have come in a little bit, and I could have actually kept with the gauge of 16 stitches per inch, which is not what the pattern calls for, but it was my pre-blocking gauge. And so because I blocked it out, afterwards I still had a length of 10 inches from the underarm to the bottom of the ribbing, and if I would have pulled it down, I could have gotten more length, but I didn't want it too long. Normally, that amount of length from the underarm would hit me right at my natural waist, but because the raglan depth is quite a bit longer than a very tight fitting raglan depth, it pulls everything down, so it hits me lower than a normal 10 inches would. If I was only ever going to wear this with dresses, I would have wanted it about an inch or so shorter, but since I am going to wear it with pants, ragweed is really bad right now. Since I am going to wear it with pants, I think this is a good middle ground. I can sort of wear it with either one. I finished my sleeves and they hit me right about right here. And when my arms are straight, they come, I think they're just the absolute perfect length. So this is the length when I'm moving my arms around. If I stand up and don't move and put both arms at my side, they hit me about right here. So they did grow about, I don't know, maybe even a full 2 inches in length. I forgot to measure pre-blocking, but I just remember where they sat on me. And the reason why is because the neckline opened up. The sleeves definitely pulls it open a little bit, but it's just, I think it sets perfectly. I love the fit of this, and I don't feel hot in this. I think this is going to be an absolutely lovely fall sweater. I think that in the very cold wintertime, I would probably want to wear this over a shirt because it is a loose gauge, so there will be some air movement, which I like. I mean, this is Arkansas. But for fall, I think on those nice crisp days where it's, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, wow, this would be incredible. This would be absolutely perfect. I really like the raglan shaping that has the beautiful lace work. These details are so pretty. So it has this on the front and the back, both sides. And that is what is used to increase. So the lace work itself, those yarn overs, that is how you increase in this pattern. I did a tubular cast on. For me, a tubular cast on is actually faster than a long tail cast on. I don't have to wrap and pull, I can just quickly work through that. And so I love doing a tubular cast on. And if it's going to be seen, I like for my edges to all match. So I went ahead and did a sewn bind off for my sleeves. I did not do the 2 rows of double knitting on the sleeves. I did, however, do the 2 rows of double knitting for my bottom hem, and then I did the sewn tubular bind off. And I think that all of the hems look really nice in a thicker yarn like this. I think that a tubular bind off and a tubular cast on are visible and they look very neat and it is noticeable. Whereas with some yarns and some weights, I feel like you can't tell and you don't get much benefit from it. I think that you do in this case. I think it's worth it and I think it's lovely and I like the effect a lot. I did actually go ahead and finish up my Hinterland dress, which is made with linen from Merchant Mills. And the pattern is from Sew Liberated. I did a Hinterland with a button placket that only goes to the waist, and I added ties. And this skirt does not have a button placket. I really like how this turned out, except for the fact that it is slightly too big. It's a very loose fit, and I did wash it and dry it on high heat. That does shrink it up for me a little bit, but it doesn't last long. With linen, it will always grow again. So I just pop it back in the washing machine and dryer, high heat, and it'll shrink it back up for a while. I think that this is a fun combination. I think especially this would be fun at the end of summer whenever there's some cool days, but it's not freezing cold. This would be really cute together, maybe even with my sleeves pulled up and my huarachas, which I have a pair I absolutely love. I got from the Choose app, and that is actually the sponsor of today's video. The Choose app is your daily drop of cool. I absolutely love how there's all kinds of small businesses constantly being added in different categories for shopping. And Mohinder's shoes are a favorite of mine. I have 3 different pair. I don't have a lot of shoes, but there's a few brands, just a few, that I love, and I have, one in maybe 2 colors. So I was able to get them on the Choose app, and they do bring Mohinders back pretty regularly. So make sure and keep an eye out, and if you want to grab a pair or something else from a lovely small business, then you can use the code YoungFolkKnits. You can follow the link in the description and it should automatically add the code for you. So thank you, Choose, for sponsoring today's video. I think this is just going to be a super great sweatshirt almost that I'm going to add into rotation. It does look like it's homemade because of the Tweety yarn, and I don't care at all. I don't feel like my sweaters that I knit and make handmade have to look like they're store-bought. that is not something that is important to me. I love the handmade, homemade look. I think that it's really cool and fun and a style all its own. I think it adds a lot to the uniqueness and the charm of your hand knit pieces. I was very kindly gifted the yarn to make this from Knitting Fever. They did send me 5 skeins of this Noro Madara. So again, this is a color 23. So I ended up using most of 4 skeins and I had an entire 5th skein left. So since this was kindly given to me, I thought that I would pass along the one that I did not use to one of you lovely viewers. If you're interested in knitting with this skein of yarn, I'd be happy to send it to you. Just let me know in the comments that you would like to win this, and I will choose a winner and send it along. All countries are open. I'll just have to make sure that if you're chosen and you're from a different country, that it's somewhere that I can ship to, and that shipping is not like, you know, $50. So if that's the case and you're chosen, then maybe I can send you a pattern on Ravelry and I will move to next in line for the winner. But it is open internationally, and if at all possible, I would be happy to send it internationally as well. Lots of giveaway winners today. For the sake of time, I'm going to put them on the screen. First of all is the winner of the 30K giveaway, and that is a Hide and Hammer lovely roll top bag that is ice-dyed, some Yarn Experiments Progress Keepers, and a skein of Cozy Posy Yarn Co. Lush Lino DK. So if you will email me, then I will get your prize shipped out to you. Now, I also have winners from last week's video. I featured a lot of different mosaic knitting patterns for the YoungFolk Knits Mosaic Mayhem Knit Along. If you haven't watched that yet, make sure and check it out. And a lot of those patterns have been very kindly discounted by the designers, so that anyone who wants to participate in the knit along or just grab some patterns up to add to your library, then make sure and check the description box of that video and look for the discount codes that you can use. Also, there were some new ones added. Knitting McPurley very kindly put her pattern on sale, but Rebecca Clow of the Cravea and Hannah Sandler of Sandmade Knits very generously donated a few of their mosaic knitting patterns to winners, and I would like to put those names on the screen. So if you are a winner, please email me at youngfolk.knits@gmail.com and we will get your patterns to you on Ravelry or email or however we need to work that out. I also want to say a big thank you because I did receive 2 patterns from my Ravelry wish list this last week, which was a lovely surprise and a very happy one as well. Thank you so much for the very kind gifts. I hope that y'all have a wonderful week of making, and until next time, happy knitting, y'all.